Hey guys, welcome back to Economics and Comics. Oh, we got a surprise guest today. I'm super happy about it. I didn't think we could get him, and we did, and it makes me really happy. And of course, Comic Joel's here too. But let's get started because I don't know how much time he has, and I really want to pick his brain. So here we go. Welcome to the show, Colin Bunn, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm a pretty big fan. I'm a pretty big fan. So, and of course, Comic Joel, everybody. Remember everyone, Comic Joel? There you go. All right, Joel will usually just stare into the camera, Colin. So if you're not used to it, just know he's just going to stare there and blink the whole time.
He's busy. He's bagging and boarding.
He is. So just so everyone knows, I've been sick. I got my COVID test and I'm negative, so that's good. But whatever it is, it's a monster and it's held me down. But I wouldn't miss this for the world. Comic Joel did get his comics today, so we'll look at those later. But right now, we're here to talk to a master writer, Colin Bunn. Thank you so much for coming. You got a lot going on, and it's interesting because I want to talk to you about a bunch of different things, but I'm really interested right now in your book, Phantom on the Scan. And of course, you do have what was the other name again? I'm sorry. The other book coming out next?
Oh, I have several coming out in the next few weeks. I've got Phantom on the Scan, Eden, Shadow Man. So there's several books coming out over the next month or a couple of months.
I don't know how you do it. Well, first of all, of course, Jacob's over on Facebook right now. He loves you for Venom. He's the Venom guy. So, but
Thanks,
so I don't know how you sit down and you just. I've always wanted to be able to do that too. I visually see everything that I would like to write, and I have a problem like processing it. So I don't know. I guess it would be called writer's block without even being a writer. But anyway, well, first, let's see how we're going to do this. Oh, well, first of all, I'd like to know a little bit about you. Let's start there, okay? I've seen some things where I
feel like I should break into like Beetlejuice, where he was like, "Well, I lived through the Black Plague." And
yeah, go for it.
And I've seen The Exorcist.
Oh yeah, it gets funnier every time.
Yeah.
So let's get into did you know at a young age that you were going to be a writer, or were you looking at like something? I read a little bit about your father. Maybe you want to explain his life, but were you trying to follow in his steps, or did you kind of go into writing, or how did that all work out?
Well, my dad was never a writer, really. Mm-hmm. He was a storyteller. He loved telling stories, and that I guess always inspired me to some degree. He was what you call a big fish. He always had a big fish story to tell, and he had an adventurous life, and he did a lot of very interesting things with his life. I don't know that I knew I wanted to be a writer. I was drawing my own comics at a very young age. I was printing and publishing my own comics like in 5th grade and giving them to all my friends every week. And then I was going to comic book conventions in 7th or 8th grade and selling like comics that I had printed myself and written, drawn, and printed on my dad's photocopier in his office. And I was setting up at little comic shows and selling those for $0.25 a piece. But I don't know that I always knew I wanted to tell stories and create something. And then, like everybody, I changed my tune. I start thinking of other ideas, different things I want to do. I thought of the military, and I thought of, police work, and I thought of every other marketing jobs and every other job you can imagine. But I always kept coming back to telling stories. I didn't know it would be in comics. I've always loved comics, so it was always something I wanted to do. But when I first really got into it, trying to, make a career out of it, I was submitting, more prose work than comic work. mainly because I knew how to submit prose work. I didn't know how to submit comic work.
So, well, for a lot of your comic story, I mean, like, there's a lot of horror stories out there. Like, for instance, well, I don't know if Bone Parish fits in that, but
yeah, it's close enough. It's
I
at least
love that story, man. Like,
Well,
I absolutely love Bone Parish. The idea of like finding a famous person or any type of person that has some sort of qualities that you could use, and you crush their bone and turn it into ash or whatever, and then you ingest it, and you can become them and learn all their skill set and all that, kind of be them for just a little bit of time. Like just the first story alone, where it's kind of like Jim Morrison type of feel, and then you got the there was another, I don't know what issue it was, but they were raiding like a cartel or something, and they were jumping off a building, like to go in through the window or something like that, and they ingested like ex-military stuff so they could know all that. I mean, that's an amazing concept.
It's a fun book. It's interesting, and I don't think I talk about it often anywhere, but it's on my mind because I was going through all my old pitches just like yesterday and the day before. I was going through everything I've ever pitched. I have documents, here's my pitches from 2006, 2007, 2008, and it's just all these pitches. So I was just going through them just to see what's out there. And I found the pitch that inspired Bone Parish. And it wasn't supposed to be the comic. It wasn't originally envisioned as the comic that we all saw. It was much more of an action comic, almost superhero-like. And it was like a group of like ninja who were using the ashes of ancient heroes to give them, additional skills and things like that. And it just never worked as more of the heroic story. So then I revisited it as a crime story, and it came together very, it came together quickly at that point, and I think it worked. I'm very proud of that.
I would love to see that on TV. Like, I mean, I don't see how that's not a show. It's so good.
I agree.
It's so good, and I wish you luck on that. So, before we kind of jump into the other book, I saw this one thing about like hypnotism and stuff like that. Now, was your father a professional hypnotist, and you are too, or what's the deal on that?
So my dad was definitely a professional hypnotist. I mean, that's how he made his living for many years when I was very young. And I mean, I have seen some of the most bizarre things, and I don't, everybody has an opinion on what hypnosis really is.
Sure.
But I've seen so many strange things since, when just being in that lifestyle with him. I mean, I remember us stopping at, I remember going somewhere, driving at night somewhere, and there's a really bad car accident, and there was a guy bleeding to death right outside the car. My dad gets out, and he says, all right, let's go. He says, I'm going to take care of this. And he goes and he talks to the guy, and I swear, I was little, so my memories are fuzzy, but I swear the guy stopped bleeding just from my dad talking to him and talking him down from bleeding. And, and I've seen my dad do past life regressions, which are just really bizarre when these people are speaking in languages that you've never.
Okay, that's super interesting to me. Yeah. That's super crazy interesting to me. I have this like theory that like I feel like I've lived this life before, and I make different decisions, and I just keep living it over and over and over again. For experiences I had in the past where I like predicted, I had dreams and they would come true, and I would tell people this is what's going to happen. They'd freak out. And the only way I could wrap my head around it was that I've lived this life over and over, right? So now you're talking about like one guy would be from Egypt or something, speaking Egyptian, or
and you can go to like a new age shop and they'll talk to you about past life regressions. And I've done it since as an adult. I'm like, this is not what my dad used to do. This is some nonsense. But I mean, he would take people back and he'd say, all right, we're going to think about what were you doing 5 years ago? And the person could vividly remember in perfect detail what they were doing 5 years ago to the moment. And then he'd say, all right, let's go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago. And he said, now we're going to go back 50 years before you were born. What were you doing? 100 years before you were born. What were you doing? And eventually someone would start saying, oh, I'm baking bread. And they would talk in detail about how to bake bread in the 1600s. And they would talk about all these. I saw people speaking in languages they said that they didn't seem to know, or at least I think they were. Who knows? I can't speak. I couldn't speak that language. But yeah, he take people back into what were previous lives, and it was really.
And you're sitting there as a kid watching the whole thing, like he's
Yeah.
like, here, sit here and watch.
Yeah, I'd often sit and watch when he was doing those things. Yeah.
So would he put him to sleep?
Part of his show. His show was much more what you think of, a hypnotist does, is making people do crazy,
like a chicken or whatever,
all that nonsense.
That's really interesting.
But he would have private sessions where he would do these past life regressions, which were really crazy. And I did a book for Image a few years back called Regression, which was inspired by that. It was inspired by watching all those past life regressions my dad would do.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to. I think I know of it. Actually, I just haven't read it, so that's interesting. I'll have to pick that up. So, did you took that knowledge and did it yourself for a little bit?
Well, I say on like Twitter, I say I'm the world's youngest hypnotist, or I used to perform as the world's youngest hypnotist, because when I was 4 years old or so, my dad would bring me out on stage and I was part of the show, and he'd say, all right, everyone, I'm going to introduce you to the world's youngest hypnotist. And I would come out and I had a little part of the act I did for maybe a minute or two. And then I would take a bow and everybody would laugh because it's hypnotized. My dad would do the hypnosis and he'd tell the people that they were going to listen to me for a little bit. And I had a couple of little bits I made them do.
Could you literally, if I put you on the full screen, could you hypnotize everyone to buy your book?
If I could do that,
you'd be a millionaire.
We wouldn't be talking right now because I would have influenced everyone, and they would just be a bunch of Cullen zombies, like the old Marvel zombies. It would be the Cullen zombies, but only for real.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Phantom on the Scan. Now, I just showed you. I'll show it on the screen. You guys, just in case if you missed the thing, Exchange Collectibles and myself are doing an exclusive cover by Piper Ruddick for this book. It's very limited, and it's at Exchange Collectibles. Here's the cover I'm going to show just for a refresh on the screen now. So it's a Scanners homage, which you had brought up, Scanners. And I kind of close-upped on the face, but on the right side is the cover itself, and you can pick it up if you want or get the regular cover or whatever. But I was showing it to you, and you were pretty excited about it, which made me happy.
Yeah, it's a great cover, and and yeah, definitely, it kind of calls one of the big inspirations for the comic, which was the movies like Scanners and movies like Scanners, and stories about psychic horror. That was the maybe the big inspiration for Phantom on the Scan for sure.
So can you give us a little taste of what we can expect in that book? Because I'm excited for it. I read the previews and I know a little bit extra, but
Yeah. So the book is drawn by Mark Torres, who worked with me on a book for Image a few years back called Cold Spots.
I love it.
He's an amazing artist. Phantom on the Scan is a story about a group of psychics, and they discover that psychics all over the world are starting to die in horrible, horrible ways. Their powers seeming to kill them. So this group of psychics get together to try to figure out why psychics are dying and how they can prevent it. And that kind of sets them on a path where they discover that they're connected in a way they didn't know about, and that and the origins of their powers is very horrific for them, and awakens some very dark things. So it's a very it's like I said, it's 5 issues. It is a dark psychic horror story. Lots of crazy psychic powers, lots of blood and guts, lots of horror themes we're going to explore in it. That
sounds awesome. I know some of the spoiler that you didn't say. I know some of it. I accidentally learned a little bit about it. And,
what?
I'm really excited about it. I'm not going to say, but so question, like these psychics, of course, there's going to be like the Scanners type, like the third eye or whatever. And like there'll be people included maybe like Firestarter and different types of that type of genre of. I mean, you've incorporated a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to see several different sort of psychic abilities explored. You know, there's one of the characters, his skill sets like astral projection, and one telepath, and one is a technopath, which is a psychic influence over technology. And then our lead character is what I'd call an omnipath, which means he has every psychic ability. He's vastly powerful, but his powers all manifest through this ghostly figure of a little boy that died when he was himself was a child, and this little boy seems to be rotting and withering every time he uses his powers. This little dead boy is growing more and more rotted, more like more zombie like, which is sort of his it's sort of his indicator that all is not well, and it's keeping it's the thing that keeps him from using the powers. He's getting ready. He's gonna psychically scan someone, and he looks over and like, oh, there's this rotting little boy. I don't at what point does he just rot away to nothing, and does that represent the moment when I'm going to die?
It almost sounds like a Dorian Gray type of thing.
Well, the character's name is Dorian, the little boy.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, the little boy, they call him Dorian throughout the story. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. I'm glad I get that one. Sorry.
So you're on it.
I'm so sorry. I've got this killer cold killing me right now. So this when I can't remember when it comes out. Is it the 17th or is it the?
I do not have the exact date on me right now.
Let me see if I can find it really quick. Yeah, the interview I saw in Hollywood Reporter is really good. Trying to see if it shows a release date. I know it's in a couple weeks.
It's
for sure.
April 14th. April 14th.
14th. There you go. So 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to get it.
I think people are really going to like it. It's it's a very eerie comic. It's got a lot of creep factor to it. And like I said, Mark Torres is just such a talented artist. It's really going to be a treat as well.
I liked his work in Cold Spots a lot. I like Cold Spots a lot too.
I think if you like Spots, you'll like this. There's a sort of a similar vibe. This one's a little bloodier probably than Cold Spots was.
Well, that's awesome. That's what I want to hear. So what else do you have in the works? You got any like crazy stuff that you haven't told anybody yet that you could tell us?
I don't have anything that I haven't told anyone else that I can tell you. I've got, like I said, I've got with Phantom. We've got Phantom on the Scan. I've also got coming from Aftershock. I've got a book called Eden, which is a one-shot horror story that they're bringing out. I think that comes out in June, maybe June, or it might be May. So I've got Eden coming out. I've got from Boom. I've got a book coming out called Basilisk that is going to be we were talking about Bone Parish. Basilisk is drawn by Jonas Scarf, who did Bone Parish with me. So we're doing another series together. Very sort of a horror science fiction revenge story through Boom. So that's coming as well. And then from HarperCollins in a few months, like in July, I have a book called The Ghoul Next Door, which is a mid-reader graphic novel. That's sort of a new. It's a horror story, but written for middle readers.
Let me ask you a question. Like for instance, let's just say Bone Parish, right? So, did you? I mean, I know. Okay, so. What was the reason why, or what is stopped you from like getting it all completed, right, and pitching it as like a novel somewhere, or instead of bring it to comics? Is there is it easier to do comics, or the book wasn't completely done yet, or because I know you said you're in the comic book world, but you are a writer, and these stories, I could see them at Barnes and Noble or, you know, whatever, like in a.
Well, I think that's a good question. You know, I think a lot of writers would say that writing a comic is easier than writing a novel. I think those people have never written a comic because it can be, you know, a comic has its own set of challenges and has its own skill set that go along with writing it. It's not necessarily, you know, a person who's a good novel writer may not be a great comic writer. Some people have, you know, can write all these things, but they are different skill sets. But I'll tell you the thing that really draws me to comics right now. There's sort of an immediate sense of gratification for me with comics. You write a novel, and one, it takes a good long while, and then it has to go through a huge long period of time to sometimes, you know, years before anyone sees it and anyone reads it. Comics is much more rapid. You know, I write a comic, I'm starting to see art within a couple of weeks. I'm getting art back on that comic. And there is it's a little bit of a high when you get art back on something when I get art back on something I've created, I get excited about it. So I love when I open my email and there's new pages, and it's hard to beat that feeling of I wrote something and now here someone else is bringing it to life for me immediately. And it's such a cool feeling. It's that immediate fix. And comics, for the most part, comics hit, you know, get to readers, in my opinion, a lot faster than prose can typically get there. Like if you're going through one of the big, one of the big publishers or whatever.
I completely get what you're saying about that fix. You know, I've done some exclusive covers, and I'm like, I've given them an idea. It's not like I'm writing the book, but when you finally see it, like, oh, I'm not sure. And then you see the one, you're like, oh my gosh, it's exactly what I wanted. I'm sure. Has there been a lot of times where, you know, not to hurt any artists or anything, but
trust me, I won't hurt any artist feelings because
you're good at that. You make sure to never no, not that. So, but like there's been the time where you send it and you get back pages like, that's not what I'm looking for.
You know, maybe I've been very lucky though. I mean, I would say 9.5 times out of 10, I get back, you know, pages that I just absolutely love or are better than I envisioned. You know, you have to keep in mind, it's a collaborative medium. So you're going to have it's not always going to look exactly what you had in your mind. In fact, I don't know that I want it to ever look exactly what I'm picturing, because that's less collaborative. And I really love that, you know, when the artist is really engaged and giving it their all, it's going to look, you know, they're going to bring, you know, their personality into it. And that's where comics really come to life. But yeah, for the most part, I would say I've been very lucky throughout my career to have worked with some really, really talented people.
Yeah, that's amazing. I bet you just love that feeling. I mean, I totally get it. So you don't do any like little brief sketch of like what you think. You just give the writing 100%.
I just write it. I write enough description that they know what I have in mind, but not so much that I'm giving marching orders of, you know, very specific, you know, turn, you know, this angle and, you know, from up here, 45 degrees, shooting down this. I don't do all that.
Yeah.
The best artists can read the script, and they'll know how to angle the panels, how to position the panels, how to lay out the page. I mean, if I have something very specific in mind for whatever reason, I might describe that. But for the most part, everyone who works with me knows they can chuck that out the window too if I'm on the wrong path. But no, I don't draw. I mean, I have drawn a couple of times, and it's ridiculous how awful my little sketches are. And I always, you know, like if there's something I'm describing that I just can't make the words describe exactly what I have in mind, I will draw it and put that drawing right into the script. And and I often accompany that with an apology. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you have to look at this. For the most part, I don't thumbnail for the artist or anything like that. I've done it for myself sometimes. I'll draw a little quick thumbnail trying to see if what I think, can fit on a page, can really fit on a page. And I'm like, if I can do it, with my stick figures, I'm sure an artist can do better, but I don't show that to an artist usually. That's not my job.
Well, so I don't know if you have some time to answer some questions in the chat, possibly.
Sure.
But people think that you've hypnotized Joel. Don't worry, Joel's always like that.
Look, I used to work at a comic shop, and I used to have to put those bags and boards together. That in itself can hypnotize you. You put those in, and you go into like sort of this bagging and boarding, zone.
Yeah,
I'm like this even when I'm not bagging and boarding, though. So.
Dude, I was trying to give you that.
Let's see here. What do we got from the chat? Eddie says, are you going to write the story for the character that picked up the Dreamstone in Venom 15?
Eddie, I'd love to, but I doubt it'll ever happen. I mean, Marvel would have to greenlight the story, and I know who that was, and I know what I would do with that. But it doesn't look like there's that's in the cards. If it's something you really want to see, tell Marvel. But I would, if I were a betting man, I'd say you're never going to see that story. At least not by me. Someone else could pick that up, but I doubt it. I doubt they'll continue it. Although I feel like that's that little Dreamstone idea was really cool for a 3-issue arc of Venom, and it could lead to some really cool stuff if someone would follow up on it.
I bet that bums out Eddie.
Sorry, Eddie.
Joel, yeah, I mean, from the movie critic world.
Yeah, well, so you've done a lot of things based on other properties. Like I was just reading Reanimator. I think you did Vampirella versus Reanimator.
I did.
So I was just wondering, like, what kind of research do you do going into that? Do you sit down and watch all the Reanimator movies? Do you read some H.P. Lovecraft? Do you read old Vampirella comics? Like,
yeah, that's the fun part, is doing the research. And with the Reanimator thing, that was a weird situation in a lot of ways, because it's not connected to the movie. Like, I didn't realize that when I first took the project writing Vampirella versus Reanimator. Even my outline had I was like, well, there's who's the guy, the doctor that's just the head. He was from the movies, he was going to be a part of it. And an editorial got back and said, no, this can't be connected to the movies. You can't have any characters from the movies. They are completely separate. And that's one of the reasons, if you look at the Reanimator comics, it's the reagent is always in yellow instead of green, because green is so closely associated with the movie that you can't do that. So yeah, I read a bunch of Vampirella stuff. I mean, I read some of the original shorts, the original short story for Reanimator. And of course I've watched, it's hard to say I watched the movies for research, because I've watched those movies so many times already. I didn't need to. So I just drew on that kind of thing. But yeah, it depending on what the property is, I'll dig in, wherever I need to, in whatever degree, I need to get a feel for the property or the concept. Like I did
one of the other series that I've.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the other series that I was reading that I really enjoy, that I feel like is maybe underappreciated, is Unearth. And with that one, I was wondering, like, how much further out are you story wise? Like, because the first run was like what, 5 or 6 issues, and now so now there's more. But like, do you have a larger story in mind, or do you kind of have it plotted out?
We had a larger story in mind for Unearth. The series is now officially ended with issue 11, whatever. It's complete now. So the second trade will be it for now. We had a bigger story in mind for Unearth that would probably go on at least 18, 24 issues. And, you know, maybe if the stars align, we'll get to go back and revisit it. But for now, we had to wrap that one up. And I think it ends up, I mean, it ends well enough, but there's obviously potential for more. I tend to, I definitely, you know, most of the stuff I've written that ends, you know, the answer to the question, do I have more in mind or could I do more, is yes, because I can't help but think of, you know, new stories and continuing that stories. I think there's value in a story ending when it's supposed to end and not going on forever. I think the best stories have, you know, definitive endings, but I can't help but think bigger and bigger on almost every project I tackle.
Here's some questions here. How much time does it take just to write a standard size comic?
So it's different, and it's different for everybody. So don't try, you know, first of all, I'd say if you're trying to write your own comics, don't try to follow what I say my timeline is. I spend a lot of time outlining my comics, and my outlines go through several phases. So that's probably, you know, a few hours to outline if I have the idea pretty well in my head. And then writing pages can be anything from I write 5 pages a day. My typical, you know, I can write, yesterday I wrote 17 pages. So it depends. It depends on how well you know, what's going on in that issue, how well I'm doing as far as planting myself right here in front of my computer. You know, how well it's sort of cemented in my head when I sit down to write. So some days I could do, you know, a few pages a day. And some days I could write almost an issue of a comic in a single day, not counting outlining. I write fast though, and I don't think anybody, you know, I think it's one of those things that people have to follow their own, you know, their own pace. You know, I know some very successful writers that say they can write a single issue in a week, and that's, you know, that's their pace, and that's great. You know, there are weeks where I don't write anything because I'm in a funk or whatever, and I just sit around doing nothing. But if I'm really pushing it, you know, I can do a lot of pages in a week. So
I don't know if you can. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't know if you probably can't answer this because I've always been curious. You know, I know artists get, you know, a certain amount per page, you know, or a cover. And, you know, most of the time I hear it's pretty low amount from the people, you know, at the bigger companies. You know, there are always complaints here and there. I've always wondered, though, is the pay for a writer more than an artist or less? Like, if you're bringing a story that's going to, you know, I've always, you know, I don't know if you can answer that or.
Well, it's a tough one to answer because if you say, is it more or less? Because if you put in the amount of time it takes for an artist to draw a page versus the amount of time it takes me to write a page for a comic, the artist is putting in a lot more hours. You know, they're putting in a lot of hours. You know, by page rate, it's different. You know, artists should be getting a bigger page rate, you know, per page than a writer does. You know, again, simply from the fact that they spend more time on that page. It takes a lot longer to write a single page of or a lot longer to draw a single page of comics than it does to write a comic.
Sure.
So
you get paid per unit or anything like that? Like, is it based on how many sell to type of thing?
So most of the time you get not always, but most of the time you get a page rate as an advance, and that's an advance against royalties. Some publishers pay royalties, so if you sell well, you get more on the back end. You know that you know, the better the comic sells, the better you do. Some, it doesn't matter if the comic sells 1 million copies, you're not going to get anything extra. It depends on the publisher. It depends on the deal you make with that publisher. It depends on your cachet, I guess, as a writer. You know, I'm sure there are some writers out there that probably make their page rate. I mean, I know there are some writers out there that their page rate is far more than artists are getting per page, which is a little weird to me, but okay. You know, hey, they're famous.
No, I get it. If you, okay, so just out of curiosity, you write a story, you sell it, let's say to whoever, Marvel or whatever, and you get your, do you still own the rights to the story, or by them buying it, you don't own it anymore?
It depends on what you're, you know, what you're doing. For almost every situation, Marvel doesn't do creator-owned comics anymore. They you know, they did with Epic way back in the day, and they did Icon, and that's different. But for the most part, if you write something for Marvel, you don't own that. I mean, that's those, any character you introduce in that you don't own. You might get, you know, some, you know, bit of kickback if that character's used in a movie or something like that. But no, you don't own those characters. If it's creator owned, you know, most of the time, at least in my experience, most of the time is I own those characters. I own with my collaborator. I own those characters. I own those concepts. I own those stories. The publisher has the rights to publish it for a certain amount of time. And that can be renewed if you know, everything's going well with them. But, you know, most of the time, especially with my stuff, if it's not, you know, if it's not some pre-existing property or something, then I still own the rights to it.
All right, let me get back to a couple questions here. Jay says, genetically engineered super writer Colin Bunn. I think I was hypnotized to never forget that title by.
I like that. I like that title. Where did that come from, Jay? Though, come on. I remember that being out there, but I don't know who said that to start with. I got to remember it though. I'm going to write it down again. I'm going to put it in my own bio.
Okay. Whose idea was it to have Deadpool kill Cullen and Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe? Perfect ending, by the way.
So that's all right. That's a great question. So that the idea that Deadpool would come into the offices of Marvel and kill the creative team, that actually came from the artist. Dalibor Talajic messaged me maybe midway. I was, you know, he was just getting started, or maybe in the second issue or something. And he said, hey, wouldn't it be hilarious if at the end Deadpool kills all of us? That way I get to draw us all and we can all die. And I was like, all right, I actually like that idea. So I wrote that into the ending. The original ending was very similar, where Deadpool looks at the reader and says, now I'm coming for you, or whatever. But it didn't have Deadpool showing up at the Marvel offices. So that was actually Dalibor messaging me saying, hey, here's a cool idea. And we went with it. I don't like the way he drew me. I've been killed in 3 Deadpool comics now. But I don't like the way Dalibor drew me. He needed to draw me more handsome. I need to be more handsome.
Someone asked, do you think you get paid less if you did digital?
You know, maybe I should know. I don't think, as long as people are buying the books, I'm happy with that. You know, I don't know that it impacts me. When I'm sitting down to write, I don't think about, you know, is this only digital or whatever. My page rate is what I negotiated for the project. I don't know how well digital sell. You know, I don't get huge royalties on digital stuff right now because print's still what sells in bigger numbers. But you know, if digital were selling as well as print, maybe I would. You know, I don't know. I don't and I probably should pay more attention to it, but it's one of those things that I just can't spend a lot of time thinking about right now.
Dark Helmet says we need a new Warrior Nun series.
I think I've read one Warrior Nun comic in my life, and I guess it was good. That's probably a comic someone else needs to write, though, for sure. It used to be back in the day. I would write anything someone put in front of me. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I got to write that. I'll write I want to write all the comics." But these days, I have to pick and choose the things that are on brand for me. And I'm focusing primarily on the creator-owned stuff. So,
Eddie has another question. What was it like to learn a character he created was appearing on screen like Andy? Does he get royalties for characters he created for Marvel or DC when they appear on screen?
Sometimes I didn't know Andy was definitely going to be appearing on screen. Is that a definitive thing? Is she showing up in the Venom movie or something? Anyway, let me know, Eddie, because Eddie's mullet, because I mean that's very cool. And it depends on the character. Since I don't even know if Andy's really showing up in that movie, and maybe she is or isn't, I would say I'm probably not getting anything for that. It would depend on the character. I have created some characters where you have to sign off like I can't remember what it's called, a document, documenting that you created this character for some. Andy was in the Spider-Man cartoon series. What? Eddie's mullet. Send me a link to that. I got to see that. That's amazing. I didn't know this, but see, to answer your question, nobody bothered to tell me except Eddie's mullet. So, no, I'm not getting any money for that.
Well, I'm sure they'll be hearing something soon.
But I really do want to see it. So I'm on Twitter. Send me a message somewhere. I'd love to let me know what episode that is, because I'd like to see her, because look, I love, I create these characters, and I don't do it and then never want to see them again. And it really, all right, I'm writing it down. Thank you, Eddie. I create these characters and I would love to stay with them forever. The problem is you create them for Marvel or DC, you don't necessarily have that say so. Do you get to stay with them forever? And that's a little bit painful for me most of the time. I'm not sure I'm cut out for that, because Andy Mania is one of those characters that I would, if Marvel would let me, I would have written her until the day I died. I love that character. I had huge plans for it. Same with there's characters I created in the Magneto series. I love characters I created in Fearless Defenders that I love. And I don't like seeing those characters, one, forgotten, or two, mistreated by other creators.
Let me see here. I'm sorry, I'm getting tons of different things here.
Do you collect comic books yourself?
I do. I used to be really into collecting. Like I had an amazing collection of comics when I was a kid. I had a run of X-Men. I had Amazing Fantasy 15, the first 25 issues of Spider-Man, and then just thousands and thousands of comics. And I sold them all to pay for college. And my collection's never gotten to those levels again. I mean, it's, I don't have the money. I had my dad helping me to buy them back in the day. So my collection's nothing like it was back then. I don't buy too many single issues of new comics these days. One, I don't have a local shop that I go to. The closest shops that I really like are two and a half hours away, and they do pull books for me, but I don't get to pick them up very regularly. But I've been recollecting X-Men again, and I'm really into getting old series and getting them bound into hardcovers. So I send them off to a bindery, and they hack them up and put them in a hardcover book for me, so I can put it on my shelf. And that's really been where what I've been enjoying doing from collecting. Now I'm not getting my X-Men collection hacked up. That gets bagged and boarded.
Well, if you ever get a chance, you should watch my on my YouTube. I put my entire X-Men collection. I put the whole video together there. It's 1 through complete, all signed.
Oh, wow.
If you ever want to see it, you can watch it.
I'll make a note. I'll check that out. It made me jealous, but I'll check it out.
It took me about 10 years to put it together. So
that's if I was to say, I collect X-Men, and then I buy a lot of books in hardcover and trade when I'm really just reading though. But I collect all sorts of nonsense.
I like the binding idea as long as it's like, like the comics beat up pretty bad and you can save the interior and make it into a,
I've bound a few things that would probably make your hair turn white.
I bet. I mean, with hypnotism and horror stories, I bet you have a human skin lamp in the corner somewhere.
I've gotten a few comics bound that people are just like, why would you ever do that? Why would you bind that book? It's worth, a couple of $100 if it's, if it's just out in a bag and board. I'm like, yeah, but I won't read it. I actually read these comics now that I'm getting them bound up.
Do you have them real special looking like that? Do you have like what do you do, like 1 through 5 or 1 through 10 or something, like a series? And do you have like a little make them personalized with what it is? Is it like leather bound?
So mine are not, and you can do that. And I know some people who do. Mine typically they look like a graphic novel you'd buy off the shelf. And I bind up anywhere from, it depends on the series, obviously, but if it's a long series, they're usually in 20 to 25 issue chunks. So it's a big, thick book that sits on the shelf. And the folks who've done it for me have, they usually really put like some nice design into the covers and things like that.
So
I don't have one sitting here. I usually have one within arm's reach, and I could show you, but I don't have one sitting here with me.
Okay. So, but it's like, it's the collector in you, because you could like easily, it's your like hobby type of thing almost, because you could easily get an omnibus.
Yeah.
But you like to, it's like creating it into something different.
So I can tell you what got me into that as a hobby. I was going to my local comic shop, and he had a set of Indiana Jones bound books that he was selling. And I was like, all right, the Indiana Jones comics were okay. But I picked them up anyway because they were kind of cool that they were all bound. And here's what he did. They were bound in chronological order of the story. So when I opened volume 1 of my Indiana Jones, it's a 4-book set. When I open volume 1, it starts with Young Indiana Jones Chronicles and goes up. And then the next thing is Temple of Doom, because that takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then are some of the Indiana Jones books from the Marvel run or whatever. But it's bound in when the stories were taking place rather than when they came out. And you can do that kind of stuff with binding that you'd never see in collected trades. First of all, I don't know how many times Indiana Jones has actually been collected in trade.
Wait, hang on a second. Temple of Doom is before Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yes, it is.
Story-wise, yeah. Film-wise, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was the second movie, but story-wise, it takes place before Raiders.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch them in reverse now.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you got to watch them in a different order.
Yeah.
Start with the opening scene of Last Crusade, and then...
Yeah, Last Crusade, and then, yeah.
Yes, there you go.
But yeah, and like, another example is when I got my run of Micronauts bound. One, it's never been collected. But the limited series X-Men and Micronauts takes place right before the final issue of Micronauts. So I bound that right into the run right before that issue of Micronauts so I can follow it. When I got Shogun Warriors bound, again, a book that's never going to get bound, that series ended without any definitive ending. And a few months later, maybe a year, I don't know how long later, they wrapped it up in an issue of Fantastic Four. So I was able to put that issue of Fantastic Four right into my run of Shogun Warriors. So I've got the story and it all fits in and I know how it all wraps up.
That is really cool. And I can see how it can be addicting.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, and what I just described, those things right there, that's what get people into it, is this sort of control over what kind of, what your reading experience is. It
almost matches up with the same thing with you're like waiting to see what the artist is going to come up with for your writing.
Yeah, and like, in a lot of ways, I send these books off, and then a few months later, truck shows up and they bring me boxes of books. Now I haven't done it in a couple of years actually. Now it is an expensive hobby, so it's not cheap.
So we all know already Eddie's a big fan of yours. So he says Colin practically made Marvel billions by creating Venomverse. He's probably right.
Yeah, I don't get any of that. I don't get any of the Venomverse stuff. I just someone sent me a picture of a character from one of the Venomverse series, Poison Captain America, and they're like, check this out. And I was like, that's awesome. I'd be happy if I even got one of those. But no, if I want one, I got to track it down and buy it myself. So, that's the gig, though. That's if you're working for, you create that stuff for, for these publishers. That's what they hire you to do. And I signed on to do it. I would love to get that stuff. It'd be awesome to have a museum of all these little pop figures and things like that. But where am I going to put it?
People are wanting you to get some lawyers now, and they're on your side.
No. Again, I sign a contract, for every project I do, so I know what what the deal is. It's not like I'm not somebody who's saying, hey, they screwed me over, and you look at a character like Andy, she's a derivative of Venom. She is absolutely a derivative of Venom. So Venom was created a long time before I got involved in it. So it's not that I don't think in terms of what I get paid, my royalties and things like that, I might say, man, I sure wish I'd have known those characters were in the TV show, or, I wish I'd have known about that pop figure, or wish they'd send me a pop figure. But I don't think I'm one of those guys that can say this publisher screwed me over, because, like I said, I signed those contracts. I know what I'm to.
Eddie again wants to know, what were the plans with Poison Wolverine you let live?
Yeah, I was hoping to get a new character out of that, but I don't even know what happened to that character after X-Men Blue ended. I don't know. I thought maybe they killed him off or something. So I don't know. I would have loved to have seen a new series, a new character that rose out of that story. That was the original plan. It just obviously it just didn't come together.
Connie says, would you ever continue Venomverse with Null?
If someone hired me to write it, I guess. I don't. This is going to shock the Venom people. I don't know enough about Null to tell you. I know Null about Null. I know basically what I see occasionally on social media or people talking about it, but it's tough for me to say. I have not been following those stories.
Eddie's funny.
Eddie just fell out. What? No.
You can bring it back when you write Wolverine verse.
Yeah, I'll bring Wolverine verse.
Well, I appreciate all your time. I'm really struggling to hold on, and you've given us so much time. I'm really excited about Phantom on the Scan. I really am.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun book. I think people will really like it. So I would definitely suggest checking out. And that variant you had, what was the artist's name again?
Her name is Piper Ruddick, but it's spelled Rudditch.
Rudditch. Okay, that variant is awesome. It's really cool. The
idea behind it was, after I read your article, so's Joel, but I'm a big movie fan, especially horror. And you had mentioned scanners, and I was like, I pitched the idea, and then we got her aboard because her art's so realistic. Because even you said, who's the guy that she used for the
I thought it was a picture. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you appreciate this cover for your book, because it means a lot. And I thought if we could do it right, like the Michael Ironside, but with your character, that it would be a knockout of the park for everybody. So I'm glad you liked it. I really do.
It's really neat.
And I really appreciate you coming on. I really do. And I hope to have you back another time.
Yeah. Please stay in touch.
Yeah. When you launch another book, you can always reach out to me and we can have you on as well. No problem.
That sounds
right.
All right.
I'll try to get you a copy of that cover too.
Yeah, please. Yeah, for sure.
But again, thank you so much. I'll let you go. We got to finish up with Joel's got to do his stuff now. You can take him out of the trance if you want.
All right. All right, Joel.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Keep up the good work, Colin. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. So there it was, Colin Bunn. That was a great interview, as usual, over at The Sickness. I was really excited to have him, man, to hear about his life. And, man, I got to tell you, I almost passed out like 8 times. So just because I'm having a hard problem talking and breathing. And, dude, I don't know. I'm going to have to go, like, to the actual doctor. But, Joel, I was too sick to go to the store. So this is all you, buddy. This is your comic show. This is your comic book hall show. I can't even talk. Comic Joel.
Tigah. Tigah. Bird. Birdie.
Hold on, Robin. Tight. I'll ease you back up to the ledge.
Sick!
One of these days, I'm gonna have to get Comic Bill to redo that intro. All right. So wow, I guess he's completely gone. So all right, Comic Joel, showtime. I will just go through the comics I picked up today. It was very strange in the comic shop without Bill there. Everybody was asking what happened to him. Okay, first up.
No, they didn't.
Spawn 316. The what?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they everybody was very concerned. They're like, what are you doing here without Bill? They didn't even recognize me. They're like, who are you? So that's Spawn 316. I was I can't remember which one's cover A and B and C, but I got one of each. So that's the Barons cover. And this is the Capullo McFarlane. And then the black and white.
Oh.
This actually, I think I like this one more, actually, the color one.
Did they hold me my 1 in 50? Do you know?
I asked, can I go through all of Bill's comics and, touch them all and flip through them all, and they wouldn't let me.
Good.
So I have no idea what you got. This is a really dark, messed up series. Black of Heart. This is the final issue.
I told everyone it would be awesome.
And here's another series that I'm the only person on Earth probably reading this or collecting it. I'm so far behind, I haven't even read all of them.
You and Lisa.
This is Witcher Fading Memories. This is the 4th issue, so this is the last one. And that is the variant, which I missed. I think for some reason, I think I picked up the variant of issue 1 or maybe just issue 2. So now I've got to maybe go back and track those down. This is I don't even know what this is. This is Unsacred number 5. That's that was probably just the best cover of this.
It's called the boob dive. Like, it's literally called the cleavage dive.
Yeah, I think it is. This is Cult of Dracula number 1. I passed on the cover A. It was cool too, but this is the Shannon Mayer cover. This is actually I don't know if it's considered a reprint, but this is a series that was released by another comic company, and now it's getting re-released through SourcePoint. This is the new series that maybe will turn into something big, Shadecraft. I took a look inside, and the art is actually pretty cool. And that is the cover B from Jock. Then I've been getting all of the Vengeance of Vampirellas that were Perio. This is issue 16. And I've also been getting every Ben Oliver cover.
Best cover.
That's a really cool cover.
So
Very
good.
simple, but really nice. This is issue 4 of Batman Catwoman. So I guess it's a cover appearance for maybe first cover appearance or something. The cover B, I think, is Jim Lee, which is even a better cover, I thought. But just since I've been getting all the cover A's, I figured I would just stick with the cover A. I was hoping this was a 4-issue thing, but somewhere I read it's like going to be 12 issues. So I might get stuck buying a bunch of those. I think this is just a one-shot Avengers Curse of the Man thing. Could be an ongoing thing. I'm not really sure, but I picked this up because this is the first Harrower, and this is Harrower. I took a look inside. She said that is what her name is. Snifter of Blood. This is issue 6. I don't know if anybody else reads these, but these are really funny, really well written.
They're sniffy too.
They're sniffy. Did they pass the sniff test?
Yes.
This is Department of Truth number 7. I don't know if anybody read issue 6, but it was actually really good. They just changed the art style so much. I hope they actually return. In fact, I'm going to take a quick look. I hope they return to the old, that kind of Sinkovich kind of art. Oh, they don't. I don't know what they did, but I guess they're not going to have that artist back, or at least not for a while. That's kind of a shame. That I think those first 5 or 6 issues that all had that. It's actually the interior art kind of looked like this, where it's very kind of almost to the point of abstract. But I really dug that art style. But I guess they're not doing that anymore. All right. Then we've got, this is the Ji-Hung Lee cover of Silk. And I believe it's a first appearance of something. I don't know. This I cover issue 2 or 3 or something is also perhaps Lee is going to have covers for each one, but they're all really cool. So that might be more of a cover buy than anything else. This is the Horror Comics Black and White, issue 2. And last thing is I picked up all of the Jen Bartel covers. So this is the variant cover for the Women's History Month. It's Ghost Rider. This is Black Cat. These are all just cover buys. I don't even know. They're just random. Like this is just X-Men 19. I haven't, collected any of the other issues. But I like Bartel's art. And that's Silk. Okay, and that was everything I picked up today. So I can bring old Billy back on.
Old Billy. Comic Joel, that was amazing. You did amazing.
Oh, thank you.
God damn it, you should run this show.
I do.
So I again, you guys, I'm super hurting. I'll get my comics later. If you guys don't know, again, this is my last push of this. This is the cover right here at exchangecollectibles.com. I split the run with Jason Exchange Collectibles. They're all for sale over there. I believe the trade's limited to 175 and the Virgin's limited to 125. If the book blows up, like I think it will, or at least I hope it will, that cover is going to be the one you want right there. So they're cheap, easy to get. You can use code ECON over there too. I am super pooped. And thank you, Joel, for getting some comics.
Thank you.
We'll be back later. I'll be back later tonight again, twice. So I'm going to try to not do anything. Your previews video will hit later tonight as well. I don't know how I'm going to do the FOC video tomorrow. My God.
I might have to do a Comic Joel FOC video.
Maybe. But if you guys didn't get to see the whole interview with Colin, just start at the beginning. It's great. I think it was really great, and I was really happy to have him. So, again, thanks for watching. And I'm out for reals. I'm out. I'm done talking.
Get some rest, Comic Bill.
How dare you, Joel? I'm just joking. We can always do it like this, Joel. Oh, damn it. You can't do it where it's my face looking and it's just you. That'd be funny. Here, we could do this. No, we can't do it. It won't work. Okay, Joel. I know you missed me today at the comic book store. I know I was missed.
You were missed. Everybody was freaking out because they'd never seen me in that comic shop by myself. I didn't even know how to get there. I had to map Google Maps.
Are you serious? I actually believe you.
Yeah, you should. In case you guys don't know, Bill drives me to the comic shop every week.
Full service, brother.
He's my personal chauffeur to the comic shop. I highly recommend.
They're like, would you break up with Bill? What happened?
I gave you a 5 stars on Uber.
All right, you guys. We'll see you later. Okay. Have a great one.
All right, bye.